Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler here with a special edition of the OBX Wave Report, where I, as a surfer and a wave, weather, and climate observer, dive into what the climate scientists are talking about on the interwebs in social media. And the goal here is to amplify the messages of the climate scientists and those who promote action on climate change, which is primarily the rapid transition away from fossil fuel burning and the rapid deployment of clean energy in the form of wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles at present, and other peripheral and viable clean energy technologies should they emerge. And I'm going to start here with a graphic by Zach Labe. Zach Labe is, oh boy, like wizard, the like wizard of Arctic climate graphics. Amazing continuous tale of truth, of fact when it comes to what's going on in the Arctic. And here in this graphic, what we see are these little like coin-sized images of the top of our world. So when you're looking at this image, imagine just sitting above the globe in a satellite or spaceship or something like that, just sitting above the top of our world, looking down at the pole. And you have on your face these glasses that let you see temperature anomaly. And as you look through these glasses, when you see blue, you see colder than normal temperatures versus the 20th century baseline of 1951 to 1980. And when you see red, you see warmer than normal temperatures versus the 1951 to 1981 temperature baseline. And you can just clearly see, starting at the left here, at the upper left, we have 1979, where, it looks like things are relatively in balance. It's kind of warmer over here in Siberia and parts of Greenland and near Alaska, but over the Arctic Ocean, it's cooler. And then you've got some cooler areas here over Canada and parts of the extreme North Atlantic near the Arctic Circle and Scandinavia. So maybe a little bit warmer than normal, but over time you just can see each one of these pictures, and there is a clear trend as we head on through the 1980s and into the 1990s of warming. It's not too crazy, but you can see it. And then as we get into the late 1990s, whoa boy, do things start to pop in the Arctic when it comes to heat. 1999, you start to see like some really severe heat over on the Alaska side of the Arctic. And then as we get into 2003, most of the Arctic is pretty crazy warm for the year of 2003 and 2006, pretty crazy warm. 2007, warmer. 2008, major hotspot on the Siberian side of the Arctic. And then just on and on as we get into the 2010s, 2017, just nuts as far as Arctic heat. 2021, nuts. And then 2022, warmer than normal. So it's just this ongoing trend toward warmer as we have burned fossil fuels, and we have recently experienced Arctic amplification. Now, what is Arctic amplification? Arctic amplification is when the northern polar region of the world warms faster than the rest of the globe. And that's because of a number of feedbacks in the climate system that project heat more into the Arctic. So the colder regions of the world tend to warm faster, and the darker regions of the world tend to warm faster due to the effects of greenhouse gases and ocean transport of heat, particularly for the Arctic. But Zach Labe here providing a fantastic rendering of that process driven by fossil fuel burning and underlining again and highlighting the need to rapidly transition to clean energy. All right, moving on to another climate scientist, Dr. Michael Mand, out here correcting the Associated Press. The Associated Press said, "Don't blame climate change for South American drought." Michael Mann has something to say about that. In fact, he's just highlighting a quote from the study referenced in the article. So there's a study that found there is no climate change signal in the rainfall, said study co-author Friedrich Otto of the Grantham Institute at the Imperial College of London. But of course, that doesn't mean that climate change doesn't play an important role in the context of these droughts, meaning that, two negatives makes a positive, meaning that climate change plays a role in droughts, which is not what the article said. So, hey, wake up. And then, Frederick Otto says, because of the extreme increase in heat that we see, the soils do dry faster. So, underlying the fact that climate change does play a role in droughts by drying the soils faster. And then he goes on to say, and the impacts are more severe than they would otherwise have been. So, hold on. Because what the climate scientists are saying is that, one, climate change plays a role in droughts, and two, the extreme increase in heat dries the soils faster, and the impacts are more severe than they would otherwise have been. Pretty crystal clear here. So it's a case of a study not finding a signal in one area of climate, and then apparently the Associated Press getting confused on that particular signal not being there and saying that because that one signal wasn't there, then there's nothing to do with droughts, which is just not right. So Dr. Mann out there on point. Again, highlighting some facts that we need to be reporting, but we're not. All right, Catherine Hayhoe. I love Catherine Hayhoe. Catherine Hayhoe is a fantastic climate communicator. I encourage you to follow her and amplify what she says. But right now, Catherine Hayhoe herself is amplifying something about the way our global economy works on fossil fuels and the inefficiencies and just dumbness of that system. And this one showing a picture of coal haulers lined up as literally as far as the eye can see outside the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef, one of the great natural wonders of our world, under direct threat from the warming of the oceans, driven by the burning of the coal and the gas and the oils, but the coal from the coal haulers that are lined up waiting to dump their coal to be burned to put the Great Barrier Reef in peril. So, and Dr. Vincent Raoult, I hope I got your name right, Dr. Vincent Raoult. I will follow you as an apology to perhaps not getting your name right. Dr. Vincent Raoult is an ecologist and fisheries biologist specializing in sharks and rays. Oh, coolness. So yeah, from a surfer, really cool there, Dr. Vincent Raoult. Sharks and rays are something that we encounter a lot as surfers, and they are fascinating, sometimes terrifying, wondrous creatures that share our environment. He's also a stable isotope expert and general technology aficionado. Hey, right there with you there, Dr. Vincent Raoult. Keep up the good work, and gotta agree with you here. The paradox of coal haulers, according to Vincent, literally as far as the eye can see, parked at the foot of the Great Barrier Reef. Not what anyone wants to see on their way to field work on the reef. Yep. And boy, is that ironic. Okay, so since we talked Great Barrier Reef, I am going to go on to Terry Hughes, who is perhaps the world's premier expert on the Great Barrier Reef, who has been out there on point, both speaking for the reef and taking the case to the fossil fuel industry promoters and basically saying, hey, we need to stop burning these fossil fuels. We need to save the reefs. We need to transition to clean energy. And one of the posts, one of his posts today that not today, I guess this was on February the 13th, but one of the posts that I picked up today, and he is, scientist, um, that yeah, he's basically pointing out an article in AdelaideNow.com where the head of one of the state's biggest company, Santos, is warning governments against demonizing the fossil fuel industry by caving into clean energy activists. But apparently, Dr. Professor Terry Hughes is pulling this quote out of the article, which is kind of funny, kind of ironic. We'll get into how that is in a second, but Terry Hughes says, this made me laugh. Mr. Gallagher said universities were struggling to maintain petroleum degrees, partly because of students being turned off of the industry, but appealed for young people to be part of the energy transition. Let's unpack that. um, yeah, young people don't, for the most part, want to become part of a system that is wrecking their future. And petroleum is doing that by hyper fueling climate change and dictatorship against democracies. So, no, they don't want to be a part of that. So, how about this? Why don't we provide for the industries for students to join, like the clean energy industry, so they don't have to be a part of an industry that is basically handing them a metaphorical hand cannon and telling them to aim it at their feet or foreheads or some other part that they will need for their future, mainly their livable climate. Of course, not an actual gun reference, those of you out there. This is, purely a metaphor. But in any case, it is a bit ironic and clear sign of greenwash when you say this one thing and then appeal to young people to be part of the energy transition. The implication being that if you work in petroleum, you're a part of the energy transition. And no, no, if you work in petroleum, you're not a part of the energy transition. You're a part of the old system of harm and the perpetuation of that. Being part of the energy transition means working in wind, water, solar, electric vehicles, batteries, smart grids, and research and development in improving clean energy technologies or scaling them and mass producing them. So, yeah, way to go there, Terry Hughes. Thanks for being on point. Love all you do. Please follow Terry Hughes. Terry Hughes is amazing. Oh, and and provides us with a lot of realism with what's happening to the corals today. He is the corals whisperer. He is the voice of the corals, and we should listen to what Terry Hughes is saying and what the corals are telling us. Follow Terry Hughes. You'll learn a lot, and your sense of urgency will be heightened. All right, moving on to Peter Gleek, who is an expert on water. And you know what? I'm going to go to another tweet by Peter Gleek because I did talk about the swing between extreme rainfall and not rainfall in California. And Peter Gleek, and this was in my earlier wave report. But Peter Gleek is talking about California and California precipitation and whether or not California is going to go back into drought. And I'm just going to read this tweet out loud. Just an important reminder that predicting California precipitation and water availability is a crapshoot. February has been dry. And and just for reference, December and January were very wet. So February has been dry. And while we're still a little above normal now, we can still end up in drought or surplus. March will be critical. And I just want to show you this graph here. So let's see. So here is the red line is the wettest year on record, which is 2016 to 2017. The current year is the blue line. The average is the light blue. So we're still above average right now. And then the driest was 1923, 1924. So this is the present pathway. If we get, if we're still dry for the next few months, then drought will persist for California. If we get another big punch, we'll get up to above average. The other factor in this is warmer than normal temperatures evaporate soils faster, so you need more precipitation to keep California out of technical drought as well. But in any case, it is worth noting that the longer range forecasts do show a potential for higher than normal precipitation again for California. So it looks like we might be getting out of drought for at least this winter. It is also worth noting that the Southwest is in a decadal drought, so um, anything that happens in California this year is not going to get rid of that. You're going to need multiple years of above normal precipitation to get the Southwest out of drought. But good information there by Peter Gleek. And but then I just also wanted to highlight this quote by Peter Gleek, who is focusing on Greta Thunberg's new book, the climate book, where she is referencing what the climate scientists are saying. And he adds a quote here. I believe it's from the book. I haven't read the book yet, but I'm 99% certain that this quote was used in Greta Thunberg's book. And here, Peter, I'm just going to read the quote directly. Water connects us to everything on the planet, our food, our health, the well-being of the environment, the production of goods and services, and our sense of community. And water is central to the climate. So yeah, climate change affects water in a lot of ways. It warms the waters of the oceans, which affects the way the atmosphere works. It changes the rate of evaporation from the land surface and the rate of precipitation from the atmosphere. It changes the nature of rivers and lakes and agriculture. The more you heat the earth, the more disruption you have to all those systems. And Peter Gleek is an expert, big time, on that. And I think it's awesome that Greta Thunberg, who is sharp cookie, is getting this good information in her book. I really want to read this book. Let's amplify Greta Thunberg's climate book as well, and I'm gonna like this post. And then we're gonna go on to Bill McKibben. Bill McKibben is not a climate scientist, but he is an activist who is on the side of the climate scientists often, and Bill McKibben is on point for like risks and threats to human civilization. One of the things that scares Bill McKibben, as myself, is AI. AI can be rather disruptive. So I'm just going to read this quote here. I've read and written a lot of scary things, but very few of them seem as scary as this. Global warming is a decisive break with nature. And AI, like this, could be a decisive break with human nature. And this from a quote from Kevin Roos, who the other night had a disturbing 2-hour-long conversation with Bing's AI chatbot. Some of my friends are using this thing, and I don't really know how to feel about it. But apparently, the AI told him that his real name, that it told me its real name, Sydney, detailed dark and violent fantasies, and tried to break up my marriage. Genuinely one of the strangest experiences of my life. I don't know. So technology is kind of freaky, and we need to sometimes rein in technology to make sure that technology works for justice and a better life. Just technology that just does anything can be awful, and we've seen that on the interwebs where technology has been used to amplify hate and promotions of violence. And if AI is used to mess with people, basically, and in the way that social media in many ways has been used to mess with people, then AI is not going to be a very good thing at all. It's going to be awful. Um, oftentimes people link the rise of fascism in Europe in the 1920s and 30s to the rise of radio and the abuse of radio. Um, and of course, there were like some socially underlying elements that were exploited by demagogues that led to that as well. But if this is what we're looking at with AI, then AI is not going to be a very good thing. So that's an interesting point there by Bill McKibben. Um, I did want to note one more point here. Bill McKibben has been focused like a laser on moving the investments away from fossil fuels and into clean energy. It's one of the reasons why I promote his organization, 350.org, and I donate to it. And here, a quote from Bill McKibben. This is right here at the center of gravity of what the climate scientists are talking about, in that the more we invest in fossil fuels, the worse our future looks when it comes to climate. And Bill McKibben here highlighting some big news. Climate denier out at the World Bank, perhaps opening the way for serious climate finance. So the World Bank is one of the big investment organizations in the world and helps send money to new projects around the world, which also helps to determine the features of our economy. And if we've got a climate change denier that is leaving the World Bank, and hopefully someone comes in that is more clean energy focused, then we can start sending good money after good and stop sending good money after bad. And I encourage you to follow Bill McKibben and help him send good money after good and invest in the clean energy transition, not the greenwash, not the climate change denial, not the people who are saying, ooh, working in the petroleum industry is a part of the transition. No, it's not. All right, so yeah, New York Times article, World Bank president dogged by climate question steps down. Good news there, and something to read. Yeah, a global banker once said he's not sure the globe is warming, which is just moronity. Okay, so that's my roundup of what the climate scientists are talking about today. It's very important that we as surfers and coastal dwellers pay attention, because what affects the climate affects us in a big way. And I'm just going to return back to this picture of change here for the Arctic, provided by Zach Labe, one of our best Arctic observers, and end our what are climate scientists talking about today with this image again. So thank you for joining me for this special edition of the OBX Wave Report. I will be